Imagine you wake up tomorrow morning, grab your phone, and the first thing you see isn't your texts or your emails. It's your score. A number between 1 and 5 floating right next to your name, visible to every single person you'll ever meet. Your boss can see it, your date can see it, the random cashier at the grocery store can see it. Everyone you have ever crossed paths with has had the ability to rate you as a human being, and right now you're sitting at a 3.4. That might not sound like the end of the world, but just wait. Now, this isn't some far-fetched sci-fi idea. We already kind of live in this world, just in pieces. You have a rating as an Uber passenger right now, and you probably have no idea what it is. Drivers can see it before they even decide to pick you up. If you're below a 4.6, some drivers will just straight up skip you. You've basically already been judged and you didn't even know the trial was happening. But what if that number wasn't just for Uber? What if it was for everything? So here's how it works. Every single interaction you have in your daily life is now rateable. The person you cut off in traffic, they can rate you. The coworker you interrupted in a meeting? Rating. The waiter you were a little short with because you were having a bad day? Rating. The neighbor who saw you not pick up after your dog? You already know, rating. And unlike your Uber score that only a handful of drivers see, this one is completely public. It's stamped right next to your face, like a Yelp review for a human being. 3.4 out of 5.0, right there, forever. Now let's talk about what that number actually means for your life, because this is where it gets really fun. Or really terrifying, depending on where you're sitting on that scale. If you're up around a 4.8 or above, congratulations. You are basically a golden retriever in human form, and the world rewards you accordingly. Landlords are sliding into your inbox, begging you to rent their best units. Employers are fast-tracking your job applications. Restaurants are bumping you to the front of the wait list. Banks are offering you the lowest interest rates. You are treated like a minor celebrity everywhere you go, except the only thing you're famous for is apparently being really, really pleasant to be around. Must be nice. Now, let's say you're hanging out somewhere in the middle, like a 3.5 to 4.2. This is the mediocre zone, and it is deeply uncomfortable. Not bad enough to face serious consequences, but just low enough that people notice. Employers look at your score and quietly move on to the next candidate. Landlords rent to you, but not the nice unit, the one above the parking garage that smells a little weird. Dates Google your score before agreeing to meet you. Your number follows you like a slightly embarrassing reputation you can never fully shake. And then there's the low scores, the 2.9s and below. The people who've been rated poorly enough, often enough, that society has basically decided to opt out of dealing with them altogether. Airlines won't let them upgrade. Certain apartment complexes have minimum score requirements, so they can't even apply. Dating apps surface them last, if at all. Job listings start quietly filtering them out. It's not that anyone has officially banned them from anything. It's just that enough doors have quietly closed that life starts to feel like one long, frustrating series of rejections with no clear explanation. And here's the darkest part. A lot of those low scorers, they didn't do anything catastrophically wrong. They just had a string of bad days. Or they were rated unfairly by people who were in a bad mood. Or they grew up in circumstances that made being polished and personable a lot harder. The rating doesn't know any of that. The rating doesn't care. Now you're probably thinking, okay, but people would just be nicer to each other, right? Like, isn't that kind of the point? And sure, on the surface, yes. Suddenly everyone is holding doors open, saying please and thank you, smiling at strangers. Road rage drops to zero because who in their right mind is going to cut someone off when there's a dash cam and a rating attached to the moment? But here's the thing. Nice and genuine are two very different things. What you actually get is a world full of people performing kindness rather than feeling it. Every interaction becomes a transaction. You're not smiling at the barista because you're happy to see them. You're smiling because you need that 5 stars. You're not helping your elderly neighbor carry her groceries out of the goodness of your heart. You're doing it because 3 people on your block have their phones out and your score hasn't moved in a week. You become a professional people pleaser. Not because you've become a better person, but because the algorithm demands it. Congratulations! You are now basically running a personal brand, except the brand is just your face and the product is your own personality. And then there's the gaming of the system, because obviously that happens. High scorers start forming social circles exclusively with other high scorers because why risk getting a low rating from someone with a 2.1 who's clearly having a personal crisis? Rating rings pop up where groups of friends all agree to give each other perfect fives, inflating scores artificially. Wealthy neighborhoods start averaging 4.9 and above, not because the people there are genuinely better humans, but because they have more time, more resources, and more social polish. Poor neighborhoods average in the threes, not because the people there are worse, but because stress and survival don't exactly make you the most immediately charming version of yourself. The score stops measuring who you are and starts measuring how well you can perform being someone the world likes. Sound familiar? Because you've been doing a version of this on social media for years. The rating system is just Instagram with real-world consequences attached. Instead of hiding your messy room before posting a photo, you're hiding your bad mood before walking into a coffee shop. Same instinct, way higher stakes. Now, there are real places where versions of this have actually been tried. Some cities in China ran pilot programs that gave residents scores starting at 1,000 points, going up for things like volunteering and following traffic laws, and going down for things like skipping out on fines or making noise complaints against your neighbors. One journalist ended up on an untrustworthy list and found himself banned from buying plane tickets, getting a mortgage, and enrolling his kid in private school. All because of some posts the government didn't like. He described it as feeling controlled every single moment of every single day. Which, yeah, that tracks. And look, we already have a watered-down version of this everywhere. Your credit score dictates where you can live and whether you can borrow money. Your social media presence affects whether you get hired. Your Uber rating determines whether a driver will even bother showing up. We have already accepted dozens of little scores running quietly in the background of our lives. The only difference in this scenario is that they all get combined into one very loud, very public number that everyone can see in real time. So what happens to the people who just decide they don't want to play? There will be some. People who refuse to rate others and refuse to care about being rated. They'll opt out entirely, give everyone a 3 out of 5 on principle, and proudly sit at a 3.1 themselves. And honestly, good for them. But opting out carries its own cost. You become invisible to the systems that run on score. You get filtered out before anyone even meets you. You're not hated. You're just quietly deprioritized until you barely exist in the version of society that the score has built. You're not banned. You're just left out of everything. And for the people who start low and can never climb out, the math gets cruel fast. You need good interactions to raise your score, but people with high scores avoid interacting with you because they don't want to risk catching a low rating from someone who's already struggling. So the people at the bottom stay at the bottom, not because they deserve to, but because the system just keeps closing the door right before they can get through it. The rich get richer, the high scorers get higher, and the 2.8s are left wondering what they could have possibly done differently, even though the honest answer is not much. So the next time someone says they wish people would just be more accountable, more polite, more considerate of others, remember that a world where every moment is rateable and every score is public doesn't create better people. It creates better actors. Everyone smiles. Nobody means it. And somewhere, a 3.4 is just trying to get through the day without losing another half a star. But hey, at least everyone's holding the door open. Now you tell me, would you survive in a world where everyone rates everyone? Hard to know, but you know what's easier? That's right. Subscribing for more content. Please do. Thanks.